4, Video 2, Cult to Culture, Cult of Domesticity, Pop Culture, Transcendentalism, the Mormons, primary sources and secondary sources. I'm going to try not to get canceled. I'm going to try not to go on a rant. So this idea of the cult of domesticity, domestic, domicile, meaning home. It's this belief that the home is run by the mother, the female, the woman, and she will do everything. This is her kingdom. She calls all the shots. She makes everything work. She makes everything run. She trains the kids. She does everything for the kids so that they develop the right character traits, the right behaviors, right and wrong, persistence, you name the work ethic, whatever ideas, reading, writing, mathematics. The mother is in charge of that. That is the most important job ever. Going to try to stay off my soapbox here. A lot of people are going to hear this and say, gosh, why can't women go work? This is so sexist. I understand. It is sexist to not allow women to have opportunities. It is sexist and wrong to treat women unequally. But it is foolish and incorrect to believe that this job, to believe that the cult of domesticity is bad. This is the greatest thing ever created. I will repeat that. You're like, he must have said something wrong. The cult of domesticity, this belief is why mankind or womankind or however you want to say it, don't cancel me, is here today. 20,000 years of human civilization has grown to where we are because of mothers raising children that then raise more children and teach them right and wrong, teach them reading and writing, teach them how to respect others, how to function in a civilization and a society. That was mothers. That was the cult of domesticity. Sure, I get it. Denying women opportunity, treating them unequally, that's wrong. They shouldn't be forced in the home. I get that. But what's happening in the home is the most significant achievement in the history of mankind, and it will continue to be the most significant job ever. You created an atomic bomb, cool. You made computers, great. You invented Facebook, sweet. You created a vaccine that saved millions of lives. I don't care. How can he say that? We're talking about 20,000 years of human beings. How many billions of human beings are we talking about? Raised by mothers. I don't care what you invent. I don't care how many lives you save. There's nothing that you can do that will ever be as impactful as the cult of domesticity. Very important. So, of course, we're going to get rid of it and abandon it just like that. What are we doing? Anyway, so through mechanization and manufacturing and in industrialization, we create machines. Machines do the jobs for us. Okay, well, what's that have to do with the cult of domesticity? What do machines have to do with getting rid of this plan that you said was so great? Well, because we have machines, we no longer need a bunch of farmers. And if we don't need a bunch of farmers, so before, if I have a farm, I need about 10 boys to help me do the crops. Well, I got a machine now, so I don't need 10 kids. So Ma, you only need to have 5 kids. Guess what? Ma went from working all day, 10 kids. Imagine raising 10 kids in your single 1-bedroom cabin. Imagine what that life is like. All the chores, all the jobs, all the responsibilities, reading, writing. I got an 8-year-old. I'm also teaching a 2-year-old. I got a 16-year-old that I'm working on quadratic equations with. Well, maybe not quadratic equations back in the 1800s, but you would be surprised. Anyway, the job of a mother was never ending. It still is never ending, but through mechanization, we need less farmers. That means we need less kids. All of a sudden, mom's got a lot of free time. Half, right? She's got less things to do. Oh, she ain't got free time. I got other stuff to do. Either way, follow with me, right? Less kids means less time raising those kids. So now women are free to watch stories all day. No, but hey, if they want to, they have the right to watch stories all day, right? We're going to treat people equally. But they also have the opportunity now, because they're not so busy with kids, they have the opportunity to take their comparative advantage, which is nurturing. Now, some people try to cancel me for this. This is biologically backed. But either way, we know that women have done a great job of raising children and taking care of the house. And if females or women's or mothers are great at raising the family inside the domestic kingdom, then guess what? They're probably really good at expanding that and raising or taking care of or making the nation a better place. And so women will be free to take on bigger causes. although there's nothing bigger than family. Period. End of story. Don't want to hear it. But rights of women, that's great. That's awesome. But raising a human being, there is nothing that compares to it. There is nothing more important. If we say that raising a human being is not important, well, then you get a world that's starting to look like the world that we're in, because we've often said that raising a human being is not important. For some reason, we have told ourselves that job is important. Oh, it's just family. And guess what? I wonder why people treat each other poorly, because we're raising human beings poorly. We're not doing a good job because we think that jobs, we think that social status, we think that achievement is more important than raising your kids. And if you don't raise your kids correctly, well, then we get the world we're living in. So the women then knew that, hey, family and house is important. And they got that under control. And then they take that idea and they take it up a notch. And they also expand it to fight for rights of women. They fight temperance, get alcohol, because alcohol is causing a bunch of problems. And then also abolish slavery. Now, the other side of it is, if you free women up, and if women don't have to raise kids all the time, and if women don't have to have a bunch of farmers, well, there's still women being born. It's either a boy or a girl. The boys are going to be farmers. The boys are going to have jobs. So some of the women that are going to be born, well, before we needed all the women to have kids and to raise families, to create these farmers. Well, now we don't need all the women that are being born to have more kids, because we don't need all these kids. So some of the women that are being born aren't going to be the mother or fathers. They got to find something else to do now, because we changed the game with mechanization. This is where, wait a second. So before, you needed me to raise the family. Cool. It's a big, important job. Well, now you don't need me to do that anymore. Nope. We don't got a job for you to do that anymore. So you're going to have to go do something else. Like what? Work in a factory all day. Look, this is what happens with freedom. We free people to work all day. This is going to be your life. You have the freedom. You have equality. You will have opportunity if you're a man or a woman watching this video. But you are free to go work all day in a cubicle or wherever it's going to be. So would you rather, do you think the woman in this is wait a second. You think she might want to say, hey, can we go back to the old system? I'd rather spend all day with my family. I'd rather be at home. I'd rather take care of things that are more important to me than just working on this machine for 10 hours a day while some abusive boss is yelling at me. You tell me, which one do we want to do? That was just a done decision then. Well, we made the decision again, and we continue to make that decision moving forward. Ask yourself, it doesn't matter if you're male or female, what is important to you? Is it going to go work all day? Is that going to be meaningful? Is that important? Pushing papers, filling out paperwork? Or could we possibly find more meaning in raising a living creature that's going to go on to raise more creatures, human beings, and also impact the world? Is it more important to love and take care of friends, family, neighbors, and community? Or is it more important to make sure that the paperwork's done on time, that you sent that email out, and that you get your TPS report in, or that you built a car and you made sure that the crankshaft was put inside the engine, or that you cleaned the back office room, or whatever, you returned the phone calls, or that you checked out the spreadsheet? What's more important? I mean, this really isn't a question. We've made the decision, though, that job's more important. And we've been told, the schools tell you. The schools tell you, you are trained from kindergarten till you graduate college, that it's all about achievement, it's all about social status, it's all about what you accomplish with your life and all these goals and the things that you hang on the wall and the diplomas and the degrees, and you're hammered that that's all that matters, that's all that matters. And meanwhile, the schools are telling you that family doesn't matter. And it's more about what the state, more about what the government says. And they actually train you how to not have a family. They teach you how to prevent having a family. They teach you how to delay having a family. They tell you straight up, and this is the government telling you this, work, family. And you wonder why we're in the situation we're in today. I'm probably not allowed to tell you that, but we are telling you that. Look at the standards in your school. Look at the textbooks and look and see what they say is important. Look at how they train you. It's all about jobs, and it's all not about family. And then you look at people in America today and say, why are people so sad? Why are people so mad? Why are we all so resentful? Why do we hate each other? Because we've been told our whole life that jobs mean everything, that achievements mean everything, that accomplishments mean everything, and that family doesn't matter. And then we get to a certain age, whether we're 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, we realize I've been doing this job thing the whole time and it's not making me feel better. Meanwhile, I've been neglecting my family. Now my family hates me and my family hates everybody else. And now I've raised 5 kids that are going to go off into the world and they're going to be resentful. They're going to be angry. They're going to say that they're victims, and they are victims of a state, of a government that tells them that family doesn't matter. Quick fix. Hey, family is important, and your job is just a job. Let me say that again, because this will probably get me canceled from YouTube. Family matters. Love, friendship, truth, honesty, decency, respect. That's what matters. Job, achievements, YouTube videos, those don't matter. They don't matter. They don't matter. Think about this. The guy that wrote a novel 200 years ago that you have no idea of, that's this YouTube video. No one's going to remember this video. No one's going to remember any of these videos. No one's going to remember any of the accomplishments or achievements. Maybe a small few, but for the majority, it's about family. Anyway, off the soapbox. So some of the people that were able to be free and the women are going to start fighting for equality. We'll have the Seneca Falls Convention in New York in 1848. And the feminists these are the first feminists, will write the Declaration of Sentiments, and they're going to argue for the universal suffrage, or the right of women to vote. Universal suffrage is universal right to vote. They want women to have the right to vote. This is written in the Declaration of Sentiments, written by the first feminists in 1848. So we're going to go from the cult of domesticity to women being socially active. And our leaders are Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton. Those are just facts. You need the facts to build upon. Okay, you need to know these women. These are very important women. Susan B. Anthony, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, very important in achieving equality for women. Very important for fighting against slavery. Very important in the temperance movement. You need to know these leaders. First wave feminism, second wave feminism. I'm not going to get into this because this will absolutely get me. Look, no one's going to argue with the first wave feminism really about suffrage. No one's going to argue with the second wave is mainly about women achieving equality under the law, equality in the workplace, and they achieved that. No one's going to really argue that the third wave of feminism really was for women being completely free. It's no longer just about equality. They'd already achieved that. Now it's about women being allowed to do what they want, being free to make their own choices, and kind of gets off the rockers a little bit, at least in comparison to the earlier movements. Not passing judgment. And then this, I'm not going to even talk about fourth wave. It's all over the place. That's where I'll get canceled. So I'm not going to go into that. But I think 1 through 3, everyone will pretty much agree. You get in the fourth wave and the cancel culture is going to come for me. So, all right, shifting gears, talking to another oppressed group. Joe Smith will come up with his own religion. The Latter-day Saints, Mormons, face a lot of religious persecution for their beliefs. I'm not going to go into those beliefs. You can Google those beliefs. There's a South Park video that explains those beliefs. Either way, it's still not really cool to persecute people, to bully people, to discriminate against people, to treat people unfairly, treat people unequally. If people are doing things that do not follow the law, then let the law deal with that, not you individually. So they'll get run out of New York. The Mormons will get run out of Ohio. The Mormons will end up in Illinois, and they'll actually throw Joe Smith in jail. And while he's in jail, they'll storm the jail and they'll murder him. So that's pretty bad. Whether or not you agree with his religious views, the persecution that they face, the Mormons, it's not correct. It's not right. It's intolerable. We should not do that. We should not treat our brothers and sisters like that because they have different views. And if they're breaking the law, then let the law deal with it. That is not for us to say. Either way, they will murder Joe Smith. Eventually, Brigham Young will take over, and they will finally find a place. They have to basically go all the way across the country to find a place where they can be free, and they will be free. See the religious breakdown. You can see that still today out here in the West. You have a Latter-day Saints make up a large portion of the residents, or the Mormons. People are not very happy owning a bunch of stuff, and you might feel like that too. I just got a bunch of material possessions that's not making me happy. This will lead to Transcendentalism and idealistic movement, which rejected rationalism, favored romanticism and progressivism. So basically, don't believe in science, but we believe more in feelings and nature. That's great if that's just what gets you by. That's a good, but like try not to take that and put it into the government. Try not to tell other people what to believe. Like if you want to not be rational, that's you. If that makes you happy in your home, but let's not take your irrational ideas and then make other people follow them. Transcendentalism is cool as a personal ethos, but everything else, you don't want to expand that. And so we've got Walden Pond, Ralph Waldo Emerson, Henry David Thoreau are some of the leaders here. We'll read you a little bit here from Walden Pond. I become a transparent eyeball. I am nothing. I see all. The currents of the universal being circulate through me. I am not on drugs. Primary source. They are immediate firsthand accounts of the topic from people who had direct contact with it. A secondary source, so letters, journals, diaries, immediate, primary, from that moment. Secondary sources draw upon that. Secondary sources are one step removed from primary sources, though they often quote or otherwise use primary sources. They can cover the same topic, but add a layer of interpretation and analysis. Textbook are a perfect example. So textbook will take journal entries, parts of it. They'll take parts of a published book. They'll take parts of a speech. They'll put them all together, and they'll provide some sort of analysis, a summary, and give you a general idea of the times. So it's a collection of the primary sources. Magazines will do that as well. They'll draw from specific primary sources, piece the puzzle together, and give you a general summary of what's going on. You often will get a narrative or an analysis or some bias involved, where people will take these primary sources to drive a story, and they can drive it in either way. The primary source is just going to be, it is what it is. This is what that person saw. Secondary source is going to be an interpretation to explain often a bigger picture. You're mainly going to deal with secondary sources in social studies. Occasionally we'll jump over to the primary sources. Culture, beliefs of a particular society. These are permanent ideas. We talk about these all the time. Religion, law, language. Now, the difference is pop culture, which is temporary. I don't want to get into argument. Rap's not temporary. It may become part of the culture, but no one is listening to ragtime. And while ragtime was popular, you're like, what's ragtime? Exactly. When people loved ragtime, they're like, ragtime's not pop culture. It's forever. No one's listening to it anymore. So as much as we think that rap will be permanent, history says otherwise. As much as we think rock and roll will be permanent, we're already seeing that rock and roll may not be permanent. During the 1960s and 70s, we were like, no, this ain't pop culture. It's going to be for here forever, rock and roll. And now we're already seeing that rock and roll is dying another death. Comic book movies. Oh, they're going to make those forever. Yeah, just like they make cowboy movies forever, we don't do it anymore. Just like they used to make space movies forever, oh, we stopped making space movies. And there will be a time where this pop culture, this temporary, will die. Sometimes, though, like this was rompers, didn't happen. Skinny jeans still hanging in there, but it's going to go back to big baggy jeans. You know how it goes. Now, sometimes pop culture will live on and become a part of greater culture, but a lot of times they're forgotten. The slinky, dabbing, no one dabs anymore. So a lot of these pop culture things are cool in the moment, but they're not permanent. There's always pop culture throughout our history. Here's some examples of pop culture. Now, pop culture turning into real culture, which would be Uncle Tom's Cabin, Huckleberry Finn. Some of these things have lived on. They're pop culture, but they're not really like a huge part of our life. Even though these are kind of huge examples, but they would have been described as pop culture during the time. But, it's hard to find pop culture from the 1800s that didn't live on. I could put it up here as an example. You'd be like, what's that? Because it was pop culture. So I'm actually putting real cultural things here because they've lived on. The things that didn't live on, it's hard to find pictures of them on Google. And if I use them, then they don't really give you the idea. So these are examples of pop culture that turned into culture. But every era, every period of time has pop culture. Here's examples of that pop culture. Hope that made sense. If the pop culture thing lost you, that's okay. Primary sources, secondary sources, cult of domesticity. Please don't cancel me for that. Transcendentalism, not really a big deal. And the persecution of the Mormons.